Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. The newfound friendship between Russia and Pakistan is sending some cold waves across South Block. This newfound friendship is not exactly new, but still is causing ripples as far as Indo-USSR relationship is concerned. Russia has been very vocal friend of India, despite India adopting a policy of non-alignment. And actually, in 1971, when Mrs. Gandhi signed a joint defense agreement, then Russia became the sport on which India could lean anytime and every time. And Russia has been doing so. So, what's the implication of this newfound friendship between Russia and Pakistan? Recently, Russian Foreign Minister visited India, and after visiting India, he took off for Pakistan, and that added a new dimension to the already tense environment in South Asia. According to top sources, with Lavrov's visit to India and Pakistan, Russia was perceived to be hyphenating the relationship with the two countries. This, along with Russia's promise of supplying special military equipment to Pakistan, has naturally caused some headache, some worry, and that is a matter of concern. This tour by the Russian foreign minister came amid a speculation that there was strains in relationship between India and Moscow, and they were especially over Quad, the quadrilateral security dialogue, which Russia seems to be against China, which it is. There is no denying the fact. Now, in diplomacy, hyphenation is a concept which people normally don't understand, and it refers to the relationship as time tested, uniquely strong, and steady. And Moscow is clearly aware of the fact that India now is no longer aligned, that India is no longer as pro Russia as it was. The time of the close relationship between Russia and India, which existed at the time of Nehru and Indira, are no longer there. So, Russia is clear that the certain chill which is set in the bilateral ties makes it imperative for Russia to mend fences with Pakistan, and Pakistan is geographically very strategically located. The post-Soviet rapprochement between Russia and Pakistan started in 2011, not today. Today is 2021. That is a decade of the relationship which people haven't thought of. And that was after Pak-US relationship nosedived. In policy calibration, Pakistan decided to reach out to Russia to diversify its foreign policy. And the two countries signed a joint defense cooperation agreement in 2014. The same year, Modi came in power in India. Modi's coming in power made Russia realize that maybe the old order is no longer existing. So in 2014, this defense cooperation agreement was signed, and Moscow has supplied to Pakistan with a batch of Mi-31 attack helicopters, and it has signed contracts with Asian nation of Pakistan to deliver anti-tank systems, air defense systems, and small arms. Now, the two-day visit, April 6 and 7, when Islamabad was visited by Lavrov, has been the first visit by any senior minister of Russia to Pakistan. And he is believed to have delivered an important message from Putin. Russia has sent a clear message to Pakistan, but the hint is to India. Lavrov arrived in Islamabad after spending 2 days in New Delhi. And basically, India was so unhappy with his going to Pakistan that Prime Minister Modi did not meet him. This is possibly the first time in the history of India that the foreign minister of Russia comes and the prime minister doesn't find time to meet him. It was left to Jaishankar to do the needful, and he did. This was an important visit in the rapidly evolving region. The Russian amity offering a blank check and geo-economic cooperation are unprecedented, and that they have done to Pakistan. The scope of the visit spanned economy, trade, energy, counterterrorism, security, defense, education, and people-to-people exchange. Discussions also covered regional dynamics, Pakistan peace, BRI, China-Pakistan economic corridor, and so on. It looked as if Russia is acting as a proxy for China. And the Russian foreign policy tries to address its demographic tendency in a not so friendly Euro-Asian neighborhood. Food shortage, Central Asian soft underbelly is problem for Russia, and is also concerned with the Islamic extremism and revisionism, especially Turkey. So Russia-Pakistan relationship has many constants and variables. Constants could be identified as geography, especially Afghanistan, history, and India factor. Variables are Russian defense and energy surplus. They have an energy surplus and Pakistan is energy hungry. And US hostility towards Russia, China. So both Pakistan and Russia inhabit a common neighborhood with Afghanistan. Both are interested in the stability of Afghanistan. Russia naturally wants to preclude the drug smuggling through Tajikistan and keep Central Asian republics free from any extremist influence. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then, is that the only thing? Actually, Russia and Pakistan both support Afghan-led, Afghan-owned solution. And Russia is leading a parallel peace initiative called Moscow format. People are not talking about that. But that can have a repercussion not only in Afghanistan, but all over the world. So Pakistan, in economic cooperation with Pakistan, Russia is investing $14 billion in gas infrastructure, 2 billion north-south gas pipeline project from Karachi to Lahore. So it was supposed to start, but US sanctioned Russia, and Pakistan, though is leaning towards Russia and China, does not dare annoy USA. Now, Russia is also keen to revive Pakistan's steel mills, built in 1974, and they have agreed to give Pakistan 50 million coronavirus vaccine doses. That's too much. Sorry, 5 million. So Russia has vast defense potential, and Russia ranks second in the world in arms export, supplies arms to 66 countries. It has agreement with 85 countries for technical collaboration. So, 5 countries at present, India, Vietnam, China, Algeria, receive 74% of Russian defense budget. But now Pakistan is coming in. And we cannot deny that Russian military technology is high end. Indeed, that's why India is going for S-400 missile defense, which US is objecting. So it's a middle order solution for resource strained militaries like Pakistan. And despite India's objection, India objected. Russia-Pakistan militaries have held joint exercises since 2016, 2 years after Modi came in. They are holding every year a joint exercise. Russia is giving special military equipment to Pakistan. And India, the former Russian ally, is seen drifting towards USA, hostile to Moscow. So Russia would not tolerate this sort of attitude from India. Agree that Russia is not going to annoy India. It has agreed to sell India as 400, gives all the benefit, and at the outside is absolutely smooth surface. But it's not also happy that his preeminent position is being displayed. Now, defense ties are the bedrock of India-Russian strategic relationship. And there's a joint defense production, possibly people are not aware, between India and Russia. $32 billion worth of defense production is there every year. You know, India is producing BrahMos missiles, T-90 tanks, AK-203 assault rifles, Sukhoi Mk-30 fighter jets, Igla anti-aircraft platform, and Kvivik 3 frigates. These are all collaborations. 60% of the Indian Defense Forces is equipped by Russia. So India cannot afford to be very vocal in opposing Russian relationship with Pakistan. It can send regrets, it can express its sorrow, but it cannot afford to condemn. It can be more of a warning nature or more of a cautionary nature. Now, like the joint defense with India, Russia has extensive joint production with China also. 68% of Beijing's arms import are from Russia, as 60% of Indian defense is from Russia, as I said. So just 8% more. And as a matter of fact, the Indian grouping with Quad, which is essentially against China, has urged Russia because Russia and China are close. And Russia thinks that if today China is the target, tomorrow the same can be aimed at Russia as well. Now, Pakistan's recent policy calibration, in mid-March, there was a new dialogue started by Islamabad called ISD, Islamabad Security Dialogue. And this, along with Russia's greater Eurasian partnership, that complementary. As a matter of fact, you remember in 2012, Putin was supposed to visit Pakistan, but India government objected and Putin cancelled the visit. And till Putin visits, howsoever help Pakistan might get from Russia, the real beneficiary would be India. So Putin's visit remains a litmus test for bilateral ties. Lavrov's was important. It shows growing Russian clout on South Asia. It was more an expression of strength of Russia than cooperation with Pakistan. So let's be very clear. There are two different things. One is he's coming as a benefactor, but they have not taken Pakistan as an equal while they are taking India as an equal. So unnecessary being jittery is not useful. And a perceptible shift is underway that we cannot deny. As a matter of fact, it's a signal to India not to accept, not to expect Russia's total friendship if it continues a tilt towards USA. It's as simple as that. You can be non-aligned, but you tilt towards USA. Naturally, the more tilt to USA, more tilt against us. Now, there's a psychological reason for Russia to behave like that. You know, we have just crossed the winter in Canada, and as soon as the spring came, the polar bears started coming out. Russia is a bear, we call it. And bears hibernate, but they have a very shrewd sense of friendship. And Russia has that. Let's not forget that both Russia and India have risen in great power as great powers in the past decade. And both are asserting very confidently their interest outside their regions. India by vaccine diplomacy. Another factor is showing that it is a global power and Russia is doing the same. And Russia is pursuing what many simply perceived as a balancing act, while India officially refers to it as a multi-alignment. Now, there's a difference from non-alignment to multi-alignment. Modi hasn't declared it, but the perception in the world today is that India is not a non-aligned country. It's a multi-aligned country. Has a relationship with South Africa, relationship with Afghanistan, relationship with Israel, Australia, Japan, Korea at the middle level, and at the high level with India is possibly the only country having exclusive agreement with European Union. So this multi-alignment is very clear. The only thing is the percentage of deviation, whether this alignment curve is 90%, 45%, 60%. That is important. So essentially, both powers expand relationship with the non-traditional partners. Pakistan was the traditional partner of USA. India was the traditional partner of Russia. And now both are shifting their relationship, rather expanding it. And they are doing so with intention, no intention of harming the traditional partner's interest. India would never act against Russia. And let me tell you, USA would never act against Pakistan. Pakistan would always be much dearer to USA than India is, especially if Democrats are in power. And so India's relying too much on USA is absolutely a pipe dream. And Quad that India forms a pivotal part of, warning it that it will contain China, the USPS, that has to be removed. Let it not be shown that USA is prompting it. It's a regional agreement between the four countries. And it should be seen as a part of the joint regional agreement to protect itself. Now, referring to the fact that Modi and Lavrov didn't meet, I had a talk with a very senior foreign secretary, former foreign secretary, who was also at one time ambassador to Russia. And he said the PM was not obliged to meet the Russian foreign minister. unless he had a personal message to deliver from President Putin. But the use of Russian arms in Pakistan is a cause of concern, as 86% of Indian arms are of Russian origin. So if Pakistan gets the same arms, then it can be a problem. So Modi's not meeting Lavrov is seemed to be a sort of a soft slump. It was not desirable, it was not diplomatically acceptable. Actually, Lavrov had met Modi during previous visits. And considering the fact that New Delhi has a friendship with Russia, the official explanation that Modi was busy campaigning doesn't cut ice. So bottom line is that this doesn't give a good look. At a moment when India-Russian relationship appears to have lost momentum, among growing US-India and China-Russia ties, this meeting between Modi and Lavrov would have offered some reassurance. But the fact that it was not in the cards, it will raise new questions. And let me tell you, next time when Modi meets Putin, this point is going to crop up. The Russian-Pakistan relationship has been, as I said, on the increase since 2014. And as a matter of principle, India won't be happy to see Pakistan's rival position getting more arms, especially Russian arms. So India should be very careful of Russian-Chinese ties, more careful than of Russian-Pakistan ties, because Pakistan, despite everything, when it comes to the crux of the matter, Russia would tighten the screws of Pakistan. It knows Pakistan is not its traditional friend. Main thing is that Russia is wanting to have a share of the pie of the defense trade between China and Pakistan. What China is doing is buying from Russia, selling to Pakistan. So Russia says, why should I not sell to Pakistan myself and get some money? And nothing wrong with that. One thing that is to be considered is that Russia and India hold an annual summit. It was not held last year because of COVID. At least this year, I think Modi should take an effort that at least a virtual summit is. It's possible that this summit, this time, BRICS meeting is being hosted by India. India is the chair. And quite possible when this meeting summit takes place, there might be a Modi Putin summit, and that would be a good thing. We have to nurture the relationship with Russia. That is undeniable. Especially, Russia is going to play a major part in the Afghan talks. The moment US is out, Russia is in. Let's be clear. Not directly, indirectly. So, there is a balancing act by Russia, as a matter of fact. And its influence in capital of South Asia is increasing. Each country leadership by strategic culture formulates a policy and interprets the events and concerns of the state. And Pakistan is doing so because it cannot depend on USA being promoter of terror. Now there's a conundrum. Pakistan cannot depend absolutely on Russia because it's not a traditional friend. It cannot depend absolutely on USA because it is a promoter of terror. And then non-aligned policy of India being converted into multi-alignment has led to a gradual shift. And there is embracing of zero-sum outlook in many areas. Russia has repeatedly said that it respects India and considers relationship with India as a special and privileged strategic partnership. So there is no doubt that although it might be helping Pakistan, its special friendship with India, despite India changing and wearing its way to USA would not materially change. No matter how rapidly Russia-Pakistan relationship improves, it will never replace Russia-India war. So let's not be worried. The bear hug of Russia and Pakistan can generate into a deadly hug for Pakistan as well. Let's not forget it. Hug of bear is not always good. And Russia's grand strategic balancing act, which form the core of his greater Eurasian partnership, is really cause of worry to USA. But India should not be content. What India has to take care is that it should be very friendly to USA, but not dependent USA, especially when the Democrats are in power. So, Russian-Pak relationship is there. But is it going to affect India materially? No, that is not going to happen. Impact on US-India relationship would be marginal of this agreement, and India is quite capable of looking after its interests. Thank you.